Well, the leading Republican, Jerry Kelly, was a crucial member of Sinn Féin's negotiating team, and he joins me now from Belfast. Do you think Peter Robinson, the First Minister, should have been told, and perhaps more importantly, the families of victims of violence?
Good evening. Well, you have to look at this process. It was very public. For the unions to claim that they knew nothing about OTRs is false. It was raised as early as 1999, just after the Good Friday Agreement was signed, and earlier. In public, in 2001 at the Western Park talks, the British Prime Minister said that he would sort out the issue of OTRs, that it was an anomaly from the Good Friday Agreement. And indeed, the process started around that time.
But there's a gap, isn't there, between saying, I'm going to sort this out, and actually authorising the sending out of the letters and agreeing the list. Are you saying Peter Robinson knew about that and that he's just not being candid?
No, what I'm saying is he knew about the OTR situation. He knew that the OTRs were crucial to the peace process and the political process, and that it had to be sorted out, and we were very clear about all of that. Whatever he did with the British government on the issue, I think he can talk to. I think he's foolish if needs to be careful as a political leader of painting himself into the corner of this and making demands that aren't able to be achieved. But the issue around those who were on the run was always going to be sorted out, and indeed, and I repeat, this was said publicly. Let me go further. In 2009, the issue of OTRs was mentioned in the Eames-Bradley report into the past, and it actually says that there was 200 people who had been through the process, of which 150 at that stage had been dealt with. Also, it's important to understand this process. It was simply a person saying, I would like to know if I am being wanted by the British authorities. And they asked for that to be investigated. It was checked by all the police forces in Britain and indeed in the north of Ireland. And word could come back either that you were or that you weren't. So
but do you believe the families have got a grievance?
To say that these are all suspects is not necessarily true.
I mean, do you believe the families of the victims are it's understandable that they should feel hurt and annoyed about this? I mean, what would you say to the victims of the Hyde Park bombings families about the fact that there won't be a court case now?
Well, of course I understand that families in specific cases would be very hurt. But let me say this. In the conflict of over 30 years, there has been hundreds of killings by state forces. There has been a handful of state forces who have ever gone to jail because they were acting with impunity and indeed immunity.
So do you support an amnesty for them too?
But let me finish it. But a lot of people are hurting right across the board. People who didn't get justice in this sense. But the issue of prisoners was one of the issues needed to be sorted out. If you go to any peace process, conflict resolution process throughout the world, you will find the same or similar processes in all of those
situations. But let's
just
stick to the amnesties. I mean, do you think these amnesties should apply to British soldiers too?
Well, with respect, they are not amnesties.
In effect, they are. A letter saying you will not be prosecuted is effectively an individual amnesty. But I mean, let's not argue about words, okay?
Well, let's argue about it, because you're saying it's amnesty and I'm telling you it isn't.
All right, fine.
I was involved in the process.
I'm not going to press that point. These letters do not currently apply to British soldiers. What's the difference between an IRA bomber and a British soldier when it comes to saying you will not face justice?
Well, first of all, it didn't say that any of these 187 were bombers, but the difference is very, very simple. There was no such thing as a person who was on the run in the British Crown Forces because they were acting with impunity. I mean, in hundreds of cases of killings of civilians, there was nobody brought to prosecution. So there was no on the runs on the British side, and that's what the difference is here. There were people who were on the run on the Republican Nationalist side, and therefore should have been dealt with.
So let's just be very clear. You believe that IRA paramilitaries who committed crimes should not now be prosecuted, even if there is a weight of evidence against them, but British soldiers who did should. And you don't see that there's any inconsistency there?
With due respect to you, you could have this interview with yourself, because I didn't say any of that. Right? What I'm saying is that in terms of the Haas process, and just bear in mind, we have come out of the Haas process, all of these issues, and this was a legacy issue, was trying to deal with the issues that was facing victims and survivors. And we could have dealt with all of that. So I think Peter Robinson and the unionists are missing the point. What we need to do is get back into the Haas talks, and to implement those issues brought forward. There was a HIU unit brought forward, a historical inquiries unit. There was a information recovery unit which was going to be set up. We were very close to agreeing that. And now Peter Robinson is saying, and I think he's very wrong in doing this, he's saying that this is a crisis which he is making into a crisis, when in fact, if the parties were all for it, if the will was there within the political parties, we could sort this out very quickly.
Jerry Kelly, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you.